Hey, welcome to the video. You saw the thumbnail. You know what this is about. You know, people always argue 5v5, 6v6, what's better? What's gonna save this fucking dying game, apparently? Well, you know what? None of you are thinking galaxy-brained enough. And that's why I'm here to present my case in slideshow form. What if 7v7 is the way?
You gotta understand is he put a lot of fucking math into this shit.
Eh,
He thought about it. He understands the game.
yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
We'll see.
I'm sure if the right people see this, I will be absolutely ridiculed. Disclaimers up front.
Just like 15 comments going, actually.
Yeah. Disclaimer up front. I'm not a game designer. I've just played a lot of Overwatch. So I have strong opinions. And I have always been probably the sole proponent of 7v7 because I think it would solve a variety of reasons in terms of the requirements of teamwork to succeed being a little too tight and stringent. It would bring back a little bit more, you know, because the thing is, and Kevin wouldn't know this because I should probably explain why we're doing it this way, because originally I was going to have this as a big scripted video, like the last one I did about the arcade. It was going to be very much like that. Unfortunately, it's really fucking hot here. I can't afford to turn off my air conditioner or I will literally die. And unfortunately that means my raw audio would be fucking trash.
Yeah,
and
nobody borderline unusable. Thankfully, Discord filters out most of the audio and makes him sound more presentable by default. So we're just doing it this way as like a conversation piece between the two of us because he's played a crapload of both Overwatch 1 and 2. I've only really played 2, so 5v5 is all I know.
Yeah. And this is good because I have someone to bounce off of and react to my wild changes.
Yeah, I've got like probably like 300-400 hours in Overwatch at this point, so I'm doing pretty good.
Anyway, what Kevin might not know is the fact that in 6v6 things were a little looser in terms of individual responsibility, as you might expect. You know, when we went to 5v5, each individual member of the team's contribution became much more significant to the success of the team.
Yeah, something that's very consistent playing Overwatch 2, like when you are playing a particularly tight match, you can really tell which member of your team is letting you down.
Yeah.
And now that means the game is designed relatively tightly for the most part, but it also leaves far less margin of error.
Yeah. I've always said that in Overwatch 2, carrying your team is almost impossible unless there is such a wide disparity of skill range that the matchmaker probably wouldn't allow for it in the first place.
Yeah.
It's not like Halo where, like, you know, in a 4v4 environment, in like Slayer or whatever, where like one really good guy can carry a team. It's not like that.
Yeah, because like the big reason why is because in Halo everybody has the same tools and the same weapons. It's more so just about pure skill. But with both Overwatch, everybody's playing a different hero. Everybody has different powers, different abilities, and different levels of skill with different heroes and abilities. So there's just a lot more variation of what can go wrong in a match, and it also requires a lot more synergy with the team to make it through a match and win.
Yeah. And lately, the past few seasons, people have been partly pondering, partly commiserating the fact what 5v5 has done to the tanking experience in particular. Most of the tanks in the game were designed to not be standalone. Now, a lot of them have had rework since to sort of push them more in that direction, but there's a lot of complicated nuances and issues. That, you know, the whole counter swap meta, what have you. That's a little bit beyond the scope of this video, but I wanted to present a format in the other direction from where Blizzard went, where we keep 2 tanks and instead we add a DPS. So 7v7, as I've designed it here, is 2 tanks, 3 damage, 2 supports. This also reflects the realities of queuing. because part of the reason they went to one tank was to improve tank queue times, because towards the end of Overwatch 1's life, a lot of times it was hard to find two tanks for every fucking match, because tank is just kind of an inherently less popular role.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of the guy with the most responsibility and you soak up the most punishment. 5v5 kind of exacerbated that, but that's neither here nor there. And a lot of people want to play damage. That's just the reality. Most players love playing damage, so adding a new damage slot seemed like the most this feels like a solution that makes sense with the matchmaking, is what I'm getting at. And also, I just think a little bit more chaos is fun. I'm not looking to go full like TF2 12v12 or anything, but a little more chaos, a little more. Now, I mean, like the one major critique someone is probably going to have of 7v7 as a concept is that it would be too much chaos to follow. Visually, and those are certainly concerns. There's a lot of like unspoken assumptions about a potential 7v7 move that I'm not going to cover here. Things like visual clutter, things like reworking certain visual effects and designs and stuff to make the battlefield more readable. Obviously, things like map layouts might need some looking at, the same way moving to 5v5 needed some looking at. They put a lot of crates and barrels in places, and they might have to take away some crates and barrels. But I'm not going to get into the minutia of that. You don't want to sit here.
Reason, Switch players might not be able to play it anymore.
That's also true. So I'll just assume the Switch version is canceled in my reality. Anyway, don't worry. There'll be a Switch 2 soon enough.
Yeah.
Maybe, possibly. Right, so I'm not going to get into those minutia, because you don't want to sit here and watch me stare at screenshots of Havana and be like, okay, no, I think that barrel can stay, but that box has to go. I can't really make those determinations anyway. That's too in the weeds. That's a little... Yeah, anyway. But this is just me presenting fake patch notes for what kind of hero changes I expect might need to be made in a 7v7 environment. And spoiler alert, some of you are really going to hate me, because as 5v5 pushed the game a little bit more to... Overwatch has always kind of been firmly balanced between being MOBA-esque and being a shooter. With 5v5, we push things a little bit more in the shooter direction. With 7v7, and there just being more participants in the fray, I have taken the liberty to push things back into the MOBA direction a little bit. I'm going crazy. You're not going to see any like fucking 8-second stuns or anything, but like, with a bigger crowd necessitates the need for crowd control. I think they reduced a lot of crowd control in the move from Overwatch 1 to Overwatch 2, and a lot of that had to do with the fact that there was just less of a crowd to control. So naturally, going to 7v7, you're going to find that you're going to want a little bit more CC. I've tried to keep it soft CC.
Yeah, it's less. Yeah. In Overwatch 2, it's less so crowd control and more so just strict counterplay.
Yeah, and so I've tried to keep the crowd control softer, but I said Zeke's only. I said Zeke's and Kevin's only. Get out! Who's here? Biss, get out!
Biss, we're recording.
Jesus. Raid the fucking status. Jesus Christ. Anyway, where was I? Right. This is the second time he's done this. He needs to read the statuses. We're leaving it in. It's funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is what if 7v7 is the way. We're gonna go through my general notes, and then we're gonna go down by role. Now, the thing is that I've made a lot of changes here. Some of them pretty wild. Some of them are I think some of them are pretty common sense for 7v7. Some of them are me shifting characters in a way I think makes sense for this hypothetical format, and some of them are just like very personal, like sort of just adjustments that I would probably make even if the game didn't change. We'll probably go through each of those in turn.
Yeah.
And some heroes don't. I'm changing a lot, but I'm also maybe not changing as much as you think. There are some heroes that I just didn't even touch, and we'll get into why. So without any further ado, we can stop staring at the thumbnail and start staring at these slides I made that I put way too much effort into, because again, this is going to be a different fucking kind of video, originally. So, general points. For, as you might expect, tanks are getting the most changes. first of all, tank passive. I'm nerfing back the knockback resistance and ult generation denial, reduced from 50% to 30%. I think that just makes sense. They recently increased it from 30 to 50, and I'm just bringing it back down. I'm still letting them keep the knockback resistance because I think that's just the thing that makes sense for tanks, and it makes them feel better to play, particularly in a 7v7 environment where there's going to be a lot more going on. And I'm also tuning down. I'm keeping the headshot damage resistance, but I'm reducing it from 25%, which is what it is now, to 15%. And I'm reverting the armor from the complicated formula. It just went back to a flat 30% damage reduction for no other reason than it makes it easier for me to think about.
Yeah.
So hopefully all these changes make sense with the move to 7v7.
No, yeah, the move to 7v7 makes sense with all this.
Yeah. And also, it's important to point out that these changes, all of these changes I'm listing are alterations to the game as it exists at the end of Season 10. If you're watching this, it's probably being posted the day before or day of Season 11's launch. Those balance changes I have not factored in because I don't know what they are yet. So if you're watching this at any point in the future, these changes are coming from how the game is at the end of Season 10, according to the wiki. And the wiki might be wrong. It's usually right, but it might be wrong.
Yeah.
Anyway, now for mode changes, I only have 2 here. One is for Flashpoint. I am decreasing capture time speed by 20% when the points are actively being contested. This effectively means points will take longer to capture when enemies are actually contesting them, but they will progress as normal when they're completely cleared off.
I think this is a good change. Even in the current version of Flashpoint, it can oftentimes feel like the capture time can be a bit on the fast side, so especially with the switch to 7v7, I think a 20% decrease in capture time speed would significantly help the flow of things and prevent just pure team stomps.
Yeah,
I think it would actually balance things out pretty well.
Yes, and but you do get a bit of a reward for completely putting them off the point, in that it'll cap at the normal rate.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And next, Assault. Guess what, baby? It's back!
Oh, yeah!
I'm adding Assault back, but I'm making some changes. One is that the disadvantaged side is going to gain a 30% movement speed for 3 seconds upon exiting spawn. So defenders while point A is active, attackers while point B is active. We're going to enable time bank rounds for quick play, because that's just how the mode was fucking designed to be played.
Yeah.
And I'm increasing the time per round from 4 minutes to 5 minutes. I note here in 7v7, in addition to other systems such as the new group respawn, will lessen the frustrations of Assault as a mode. I think a large part of the reason they removed Assault in Overwatch 2 is because it always had problems, but 5v5 especially just didn't work with it.
Yeah.
It's too easy to clear everyone off and get easy, kind of, I'm not gonna say unearned, but too easily earned captures. And it just wasn't designed for it.
Yeah.
But with even more participants in the field than Overwatch 1, I think it's fine to add back, honestly, with these changes I've made to make it a little bit less frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this is good. This is a good change, because, like, even as it stands in 5v5 with Assault being in the arcade, 2CP is just really fucking annoying, because it's either the longest war of attrition you've ever seen in your life, or a 2-minute stomp. No in between.
In 7v7, however, I think those problems will kind of naturally become less severe, just by the nature of there being way more people to, attack and defend points. And so with these little additions I made to buffer out some of the frustration points, I think Assault could easily come back, at least for quick play.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Maybe not as a competitive mode, but for, like...
Yeah.
Maybe not as, like, a competitive mode, but for, like, quick play, just for, like, casual game modes, I think that's fine.
Possibly. And remember, it's my reality, so you're not allowed to question.
Indeed.
Right. Let's start with the tanks. The tanks are getting the most changes, as you might expect. They got the most changes switching from 6v6 to 5v5. They're getting the most changes switching from 5v5 to 7v7 again.
Yeah, because again, tank is the most pivotal, probably one of the most pivotal roles in the game. So
yes,
it requires the most changes going from one format to another.
Yes, they dictate the flow in many ways.
Yes.
Let's actually start with Diva, because she has kind of the least changes. with all tanks, I'm reducing their HP as you might expect. I basically reduced them all to broad categories of 650, 525, and 450. Diva's a 650. So I've reduced her HP from 350 to 300, her armor from 375 to 350. So her total is going from 725 to 650. And for defense matrix, the full recharge I've increased, the time it takes to recharge I've increased from 6 seconds to 8 seconds, and the maximum duration I've reduced from 3 seconds to 2.5. These changes reflect the general reduction in the tank sustain in the switch to 7v7 and limit defense matrix power in a more chaotic environment where it will, by its nature, receive more value by default because there's more bullets flying around.
Yeah, there are more bullets flying around, and again, you have a second tank to help with mitigation.
So this change basically just makes Diva a little bit less oppressive in this environment.
Yeah.
You could probably go a little bit further than I did, but that's the only significant change I made.
Yeah.
Doomfist, I've reduced his HP from 525 to 450. Power block damage reduction reduced from 80% to 50%. That's a big nerf. Cooldown, but the cooldown has been reduced from 7 seconds to 4 seconds, and the rocket punch reset cooldown reset threshold has been decreased from 100 damage to only 75. Rocket punch damage increased from 25 to 75, and this depends on charge. Both of this one value is for hitting the punch, and the other is if they hit a wall afterwards. So I'm increasing the initial impact from 25 to 75 to 40 to 90, and the damage increased from wall slam is an extra 10 to 40 to an extra 30 to 60, and the cooldown has been increased from 4 to 5 seconds. Seismic slam damage I've increased from 50 to 70. These changes reduce Doomfist's survivability in exchange for increasing his lethality, shifting his role more towards an offensive-oriented tank. Power block is less effective, but can be used more frequently to reset his punch cooldown and empower his attacks. In general, this shifts him into a midpoint between his old damage hero iteration and his new identity as a brawler tank.
Yeah, this is an interesting one, especially with how you've redone power block, because despite the fact, because I like how you've balanced power block here, because despite the fact that it has a massive damage reduction nerf, it has a much smaller cooldown, so you're able to utilize it more effectively, more frequently. Mm-hmm. Which again kind of mitigates that reduction nerf. No, that's pretty solid.
Yeah, I also have not changed how he gains temp shields on his ability usage. Basically, I'm taking that core loop he has now of power block and power rocket punch to knock people away, and I am weakening his survivability in order to make him more lethal, kind of like how he was in Overwatch 1, while keeping his tank role active.
Yeah.
But since he's not the only tank, I think his the reduction of power block is not going to be as damaging to him, especially since he can use it more often to charge punch. And I think these changes make sense. I'm kind of a lot of what they did when they were adjusting tanks for 6v6 was they're making them a little bit more self-sufficient and a little bit more well-rounded as far as tanking goes. Yeah, 5v5, sorry.
Yeah.
They're making them a little bit more all-rounded as far as tank goes because there's only one of them, so they kind of need to do a little bit of everything. And here I am divorcing them again and making them more specialist in their roles. Speaking of which, let's go to Junker Queen. She's getting her HP reduced from 525 to 450. Her adrenaline passive, healing from wound damage, I'm increasing from 200% to 225% of damage done. Jagged Blade impact damage reduced from 65 to 50, but the wound damage over time has increased from 30 over 3 seconds to 50 over 5 seconds, shifting its power a bit there.
Okay.
Commanding Shout, overhealth on self reduced from 150 to 100. Movement speed boost increased from 30% to 50% for both herself and allies. Cooldown increased from 12 seconds to 14 seconds, but every kill during the duration of Commanding Shout will lower the cooldown when it comes back by 2 seconds, kind of like how Carnage works now.
Yeah.
Speaking of Carnage, impact damage increased from 105 to 110, just a tiny little buff there, and the wound damage increased from 40 over 3 seconds to 50 over 4 seconds, and the Rampage is at its all cost reduced by 10%. These changes put more focus on Junker Queen's burst mobility and increased emphasis on her unique wound mechanic, rewarding her for stacking wounds with increased self-heal from her passive. The general idea is that she is a crazed frontline brawler who empowers her team to rush down the enemy, but her survivability is dependent upon her success in battle.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yes. So much like Doomfist, I'm leaning into her her kind of her unique identity as a tank.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, whether this is balanced with the nerfs like whether all of this there's a lot of debatable. Some of these are kind of debatable as to whether they're nerfs or buffs or not. I'll leave that to people more experienced than me to figure that out. But that's just kind of where I put things. Mauga. HP reduced from 525 to 400. Armor increased from 200 to 250. So he's got a little bit more armor, but a lot less health.
Yeah, yeah.
He's the total has gone from 725 to 650. Berserker passive. Overhealth decay increased from 2 seconds to 4 seconds. So the overhealth he gets from his passive, which he gets passive overhealth from shooting crits. That will last longer, and the maximum has been heightened from 150 to 200.
Okay,
so he'll be able to gain.
Yeah, that actually helps to that helps to mitigate the HP nerf that he got.
Yeah, for someone with as huge a hitbox as Mauga, it's kind of important he have the ability to survive.
Yes.
And in this environment, I've kind of raised the skill ceiling, I guess, for doing that. His overrun, which is his charge, damage has been reduced from 60 to 120 to 50 to 110, radius dependent. That's a small nerf. Cardiac overdrive, damage reduction decreased from 30% to 20%. Healing reduced from 60% of damage dealt to 50%. Duration increased from 5 seconds to 8 seconds. Cooldown increased from 12 seconds to 16 seconds. And the area of effect is increased from 10.5 meters to 15 meters. And the cage fight barrier HP reduced from 1500 to 1200. These changes trade Mauga's burst sustain for lower impact, longer lasting sustain in a 7v7 environment. Cardiac overdrive in particular is less potent, but longer lasting and farther reaching, enabling his team when in the fray for longer.
Yeah, no, that's a good change. I like that a lot. Yeah, because this keeps a lot of what makes Mauga's kit effective in the current 5v5, while making him work better in a larger 7v7 team environment.
Yeah, I've made him less bursty, but the benefits he provides are more gradual, as long as he stays alive.
Yeah, this is just longer lasting sustain, given that he has decent supports. So I can appreciate this.
Lower impact, longer lasting sustain.
Yeah.
Let's be clear. Okay, Orisa, hold on to your hat for this.
Oh boy.
Her HP
is... Man, you fucked Fortify up.
Her HP is being reduced from 275 to 225. Her armor reduced from 350 to 300. Her total is going from 625 to 550. The only ability I've changed is Fortify, but as you can see, I have changed it massively. Overhealth on Fortify activation increased from 100 to 200, so she gets more. Yep. Duration increased from 3.5 seconds to 4.5 seconds. Damage reduction increased from 45% to 50%, but the movement speed penalty has increased from 20% to 75%.
Okay, I see.
The primary fire heat reduction has increased from 50% to 75%. Her crit immunity while in Fortify has been removed. Energy Javelin cooldown reset after Fortify ends, regardless of if you used it or not. Javelin spin cooldown reset after Fortify ends, regardless of if you used it or not. So what basically that means, when Fortify ends, both of your Javelin cooldowns are on cooldown, whether you use them or not, after Fortify ends.
Okay.
The cooldown of Fortify is increased from 16.5 to 20 seconds. Primary fire damage increased from 13 to 15 during Fortify.
In a way, that cooldown mechanic actually turns this into a risk. It actually kind of turns Fortify into a risk-reward mechanic, in a way.
Yeah, and one more thing. The healing Orisa receives is reduced by 25% when she is not in Fortify.
Okay.
This massive list of changes fundamentally alters the intention of Fortify as an ability and changes Orisa's identity as a tank. During Fortify, Orisa will truly become nearly immobile and bunker down, bulking her defenses and increasing the potency of her fusion driver primary. But in exchange, she must commit to the defense with a heavily reduced movement speed, long cooldown, and inability to combo into her Javelin abilities. This makes Fortify the centerpiece of her kit, offering her a unique playstyle as a sentry tank, which should allow her bursts of defensive power with more obvious windows of vulnerability out of Fortify, which should make her less frustrating to face on the battlefield.
Potentially this is a good idea, but my concern is with her going out of Fortify and not having any and not really having any abilities to counter without coming out of Fortify apart from her primary fire. I'm concerned if this will result in Orisa kind of being easily broken on the battlefield and making her kind of a low.
Well,
like
what I'm balancing here for is the fact that she's not the only tank. Let's keep that in mind.
right.
And also, we have to account for the fact that she's going to be pocketed when fortified as usual.
Right.
What I'm trying to reduce
Right,
here
with
is the
that being the
frustration.
assumption, yeah.
Yeah. What I'm trying to reduce here is the frustration of having her constantly combo her abilities together in that way that we always see when she's being pocketed, where she literally
Yeah.
never dies.
Yeah.
And I see this as a decent way to not only change up her playstyle to give her a very unique identity as a tank. Now Fortify, by bunkering down, she is literally bunkering down and becoming something kind of more akin to like original Bastion Sentry Turret in a lot of ways, just with more tankiness. I think this is a very interesting direction to take it. I understand that this would probably be pretty controversial if the wider community knew about it. I think people would have a lot of thoughts on this one. But in terms of like, again, I'm desegregating the tanks from like their roles as all-rounders to be more hyper-specific in what they do. And this was kind of the identity I crafted for Orisa.
In that regard, this does make sense, yeah, because as it stands, Orisa is probably the most all-rounder tank that we have, so...
Yes, and I'm trying to break that up a little bit.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough.
Now, and again, I'm not like super defensive over these changes. You know, most of them I came up with in like 15 minutes, just thinking about it. So, obviously, a lot of tweaking would need to be done in order to have this be anything resembling a real game mode, which unfortunately we can't test because the 12 player lock is just a hard code in the game.
Yeah.
But anyway, those are my Orisa changes. Ramatra, HP reduced from 425 to 300, armor reduced, increased from 100 to 125, going from 525 to 425 when in Omnic form. So he's got a little bit more armor and a lot less health.
Okay.
Void Accelerator ammo increased from. Shut up. I don't even know if that Discord notification shows up on stream.
It doesn't.
Okay, cool.
So it just told me. It just sounded like you were telling me to shut up for saying yeah.
No, say yeah, by all means.
Okay.
Void Accelerator primary ammo increased from 100 to 150. Void Barrier HP reduced from 1000 to 750. Duration increased from 4 to 5. So it's a less potent barrier, but it lasts a little bit longer. The Nemesis form armor gain reduced from 225 to 150, so he's getting a lot less armor, but his movement speed has been increased from 20% to 35%. Block damage reduction reduced from 75% to 60%. Ravenous Vortex vertical area of effect increased from 8 meters to 16 meters. The movement speed penalty it inflicts on enemies increased from 40% to 50%. His ultimate, Annihilation, its area of effect has been reduced from 13 meters to 10 meters. This is a rebalancing of Ramatra's kit intended to reduce his sustain but empower his ranged offense and utility. Ramatra is less tanky, but can more easily chase down targets in Nemesis form or provide long-range covering fire in Omnic form. Additionally, his Vortex can now pull flying targets out of the sky as initially advertised. His ultimate range has been shrunk to account for its increased lethality in a 7v7 environment where there will naturally be more enemies near him.
Yeah, no, this looks good. I don't really have a whole lot to mention here. This just seems like a good, like, again, you kind of went over it in all the notes.
I think this is a smart direction to take him in a 7v7 environment.
Yes.
And the Ravenous Vortex thing is mostly just a personal thing. I'd like it if it could actually pull people out of the sky like it was originally advertised to. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, honestly, there are not enough tanks that have the ability to take care of aerial enemies at this point.
That's what everyone was so excited about Ravenous Vortex about, but its vertical area of effect is only 8 meters, so unless they're like just hovering over the ground, it does not really pull them down very well.
Yeah, so I think this actually is a really good way of giving us a tank that is better able to handle characters like Echo, Pharah, or Mercy.
Yes.
So this is a good change, and honestly, even for 5v5, I think that alone is a really good change.
Yeah.
But like,
No, I'd love to see it.
especially in the 7v7 environment, with more going on, I think it helps to kind of mitigates. Again, it helps with crowd control in this particular environment.
Yeah. Also remember that in a environment with 3 damage characters, you may very well see Echo and Pharah at the same time.
Exactly.
Because you'll have another ground DPS to cover that.
Yeah, you can. So you could literally have a team that has Mercy, Pharah, and Echo on all at the same time.
Yeah. And who knows? Maybe one day they'll add a 3rd damage flyer. Who fucking knows?
Yeah.
You know. So there you go. Reinhardt. HP reduced from 400 to 300, armor reduced from 300 to 250, 700 to 550.
Pretty big.
He has a new passive. He has a new passive, Hammer Frenzy. Every kill secured gives him a movement speed bonus of 25% for 2 seconds. His rocket hammer damage has been increased from 100 to 110. Barrier field HP reduced from 1400 to 1000. This is just a general, I'm reducing shields again.
Yeah.
Movement speed penalty while barrier is up reduced from 30% to 20%. Recharge on destruction reduced from 5 seconds to 4 seconds. Shield HP regen increased by 15% from whatever it is now. I could not find that value to save my life. And his charge now has a maximum duration increase from 3 seconds to 5 seconds. What that means is that he's going to be charging for a lot longer.
Mm-hmm.
These changes trade in Reinhardt's tankiness for a more movement-oriented playstyle, turning him into a berserker that is rewarded for seeking out kills. His shield might be weaker, but it recovers faster and allows him to use his increased mobility to get to where his team needs protection quicker.
In the entire thing of giving tanks more individual use and individual, personality in terms of their kit, this is a really good change. One of the biggest issues with Reinhardt as current is that it's just very easy to just shield bot with Reinhardt, and he is a very slow, very lacking in mobility tank as it currently stands. You need damn good supports if you want to play Reinhardt effectively, and this actually helps to mitigate a lot of that by giving him more options in the battlefield on how to get in and also in some ways get out of confrontations. And it also, the reduction to his barrier field it just kind of works when you have a second tank there to also help mitigate damage. You don't need a 1400 HP barrier field. So
I'll remind you in Overwatch 1 that his shield was 2000.
Yeah, fuck that shit. My shield will never break. No, it won't. Fuck you. I actually really like these Reinhardt changes, and in a 7v7 environment, I could see myself having a ton of fun with him.
Oh yeah.
Just making him a more aggressive tank to play as, and that's a lot of fun.
Most definitely. Roadhog, HP reduced from 800 to 650. Nice and simple. Take a breather, healing reduced from 160 HP per second to 120 HP per second, but it now generates a gaseous cloud within 5 meters of Roadhog, which provides 20% damage reduction to teammates while the ability is channeled. Roadhog is already poised for success in a 7v7 environment, with more targets to hook, catch in his trap, or blow away with his ultimate. He's trading in a bit of self-sustain for team support utility, but otherwise is not changing.
Finally, Roadhog can vape, and people will actually be able to complain about him vaping on the battlefield. Oh, dude, keep your vape smoke away from me.
Yes, you will now be able to shroud teammates in vape smoke.
Nice. That's kind of awesome. I love it. Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah, Roadhog is interesting because he is one of the characters who would have the least amount of changes going to 7v7 because, as you said, the entire thing with Roadhog, what makes his kit effective is that the more targets he has, the more effective he is on the battlefield. So
he's in paradise, fucking.
Oh,
yeah.
Especially with his new
trap.
Yeah, with his new trap ability, because that's especially good for crowd control in this situation.
Yeah, he's fine. He doesn't really need many changes. He's having a good old time.
Oh yeah.
Even in Overwatch 1, he was always known as a fat DPS, and now he's just fat DPSer. Sigma. This looks different because I forgot to give Sigma a card the first time I made these.
Okay.
HP reduced from 350 to 250. Shield health reduced from 275 to 200, going from 675 to 450. Experimental barrier. Its HP is being reduced from 700 to 500. Kinetic grasp damage absorption increased from 60% to 70%. Maximum overhealth increased from 400 to 450. So it'll do a little bit more in that regard.
Okay.
And have a higher cap. Accretion direct damage increased from 40 to 50. Gravitic flux alt cost increased by 10%, taking power from his old health pool and barrier and giving Sigma more opportunity to absorb incoming fire to increase his sustain. The alt cost increased to account for its bigger potential impact in a 7v7 environment.
Yeah, Sigma's already a relatively unique tank in terms of Overwatch's meta as it currently stands, so this is just kind of retaining as much of that as possible while giving him more sustain in 7v7. This is fine.
Yeah, and also Gravitic Flux can capture a lot more people in it, so he's going to be able to use it a little bit less here.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's a good change.
Winston! HP reduced from 375 to 325, armor reduced from 250 to 225, going from 625 total to 550 total. I misspelled Tesla Cannon. That's great. Tesla Cannon. Maximum range increased from 8 meters to 9.5 meters. That's the range his lightning can reach.
Yes.
I'm adding the chain lightning effect from PvE added on his ult fire. So in PvE, if you haven't played it, his ult fire, his little zappy, can chain to nearby enemies and do reduced damage to them. I'm just adding that effect here because I think it's neat.
Yeah.
Barrier projector HP reduced from 650 to 550. Duh. Jump pack the landing damage exponential increase from height from PvE added. So in PvE, the longer he's in the air, the more airtime he has, the more damage he does when he lands.
Oh, so it's kind of like, in effect, it's basically just like based on the idea of he has more momentum on the way down.
Yes.
Yeah.
In multiplayer, that's not how it works, but in PvE, that's how it works. Up to 150% from 2.5 seconds of airtime, down from 250. Let's not go too crazy.
Yeah,
in
let's
PvE.
not get crazy.
Yeah. Primal Rage, his ultimate. Maximum HP increase reduced from 500 to 200. Maximum armor increased from 200 to 250. So it's still 1,000 total, but it'll be 525 HP, 475 armor, which I think is more armor than it has now.
Yeah.
But the duration has been reduced from 10 seconds to 8 seconds. Winston has been given increased utility and skill expression in exchange for reducing his sustain and the impact of his ultimate.
Yeah. Winston has some wild sustain in current Overwatch meta, so this is actually a good change.
Yes. And the ultimate is shorter because with more people, he's going to be getting more hits in anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of evening that out. Wrecking Ball. HP reduced from 450 to 400. Armor reduced from 175 to 150. His shields are reduced from 150 to 100. He's going from 775 to 650. Quad cannons, which I spelled correctly. The ammo is increased from 80 to 100. Adaptive shield overhealth gain per enemy within radius reduced from 100 to 75. Base 100 overhealth unaffected. So when you activate adaptive shields, he gets 100 overhealth regardless if there's any enemies nearby. And then for every enemy nearby, currently he gains another 100. Here he'll gain 75. But the overhealth granted to allies on second activation reduced from 75 to 50, a maximum of 300 unaffected. This divides nicely if all 6 teammates are within range.
Yeah.
That was just easy math. Wrecking Ball survivability decreased to account for 7v7. Ammo increased to provide additional kill pressure when not grappling. And also, that's just the thing every ball player wants. I'm making all the ball players happy. It is so common for Wrecking Ball to get stuck in these reload cycles because of his relatively low ammo count.
Yeah.
So, fuck you. I'm making that change.
Yeah. Ball players rejoice. 7v7 is your game.
Oh yeah, so many people to knock around.
Boop.
Zarya HP reduced from 325 to 250. Shield reduced from 250 to 200, going from 550 to 450. The particle barrier / projected barrier applies to both of them. Energy gain rate decreased from 1% energy per 5 block damage to 1% energy per 7.5 block damage. And Graviton Surge area of effect reduced from 7 meters to 6 meters. Alt cost increased by 10%. Same reason as Sigma's, honestly. These changes reflect the more chaotic nature of 7v7 environment by reducing energy charge and ult frequency, respectively. This is literally just math.
This has the same overall effect as Sigma's changes, which is basically just keeping her individual expression while making her more.
Yeah, the energy gain rate thing. The energy gain rate thing is just literally me accounting for the fact there's going to be more bullets.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
It should feel roughly the same.
Yeah. Yeah, so if
that's all the tanks.
So if you're a Zarya main, then you don't really have to change your playstyle that much.
Yeah, that's all the tanks. Those are the bulk of the changes. The other two roles do have changes. I will go through, but let's take a moment to recap. What are you feeling about the tanks so far?
While I do have some concerns regarding Orisa, like on the individual level, I think overall this is again, you said the big thing with tanks here is giving them more individual expression.
Yeah.
And I think your changes do a pretty good job of bringing out what makes each individual tank as unique as they are. Giving Doomfist more ability to be aggressive and slam opponents, giving Reinhardt more mobility and letting him use his fucking hammer more. Keeping Sigma and Zarya basically where they are in terms of their kit usability, just altering their sustain for 7v7.
I just thought of this actually for Orisa. What if after Fortify ends, your Javelin abilities go on cooldown, but they're half cooldowns?
I think a half cooldown is a good idea, because a full cooldown, that basically takes you... That basically means that, apart from your primary fire, you can't retaliate in any way for a very extended period of time. I think that's a bit much, so a half cooldown would probably be better.
I think that would make more sense. The main thing I'm trying to do is make it so that she has actual windows of vulnerability.
Yeah, no,
even when she's being pocketed.
Yeah, no, I agree, but you don't want to give her too much of a window of vulnerability.
Yeah,
because
I agree. That might be a little. I didn't think that through.
You don't want her to just be completely broken after her Fortify ends, because that's just not fun to play. You have to remember, the character has to be like manageable to play against, but they also have to be fun to play.
No, I agree. That could use some tweaking.
Let's
get into the damage heroes. First up is Ashe. Coach Gun cooldown reduced from 10 seconds to 8 seconds. Dynamite area of effect increased from 5 to 5.5 meters. God damn, that guy is posting a lot on Discord today. Anyway, notes, this gives Ashe some more crowd control to allow her space to operate in a more chaotic battlefield. So basically, she'll have more frequent knockbacks with her Coach Gun, and Dynamite reaches a little bit farther. Simple stuff. Like I said, the tanks got most of the changes here. So these are going to be a little bit faster than that.
Fair enough.
Bastion, his A36 tactical grenade area of effect increased from 4 to 4.5 meters. Enemy knockback increased from 10.5 to 12 meters. Cooldown increased from 8 to 10 seconds to compensate. Easier, stronger knockbacks at a reduced frequency.
And again, this just makes sense with more people on the battlefield, because you have more ability to affect people with the tactical grenade.
Yep. Which I like.
Yeah.
Cassidy, no changes pending future rework.
Hey, fair enough.
So I thought they were actually gonna. They've actually told us what they're doing on season 11, which is basically bringing flashbang back, kind of, but it's slow now instead of a stun. I thought he was gonna get a more extensive rework than that, so I just kind of said no changes. I don't know what they're gonna do with them in a week. Now that I know what they're doing with them in a week, I still think he's probably fine.
Cassidy is the thing about Cassidy is that he is really good at critical damage. And he has really damn good mobility, so he kind of just slots perfectly into any situation as a DPS.
Yeah. Echo, also no changes. I could not think of a single thing. I think Echo would be fine in 77.
Yeah, honestly. Echo is already pretty damn powerful and effective in 5v5, so even in 7v7, I don't think you would really need to change much, if anything. She would still be able to do pretty effectively in that kind of environment. And again, there's an extra DPS on the battlefield, so yeah.
A lot of these things are inherently counterbalanced by that, because you benefit a lot of the times. These damage characters, they'll benefit from having more opponents to fight, but also they'll be counterbalanced by having more opponents to fight. So you know what I mean. So Genji, shuriken damage increased from 27 to 29. It actually used to be 29. Deflect duration increased from 2 seconds to 3 seconds. This makes Genji more competitive with the increased amount of crossfire on the field. Basic stuff.
Yeah, especially with deflect, it gives them a little bit more opportunity for damage mitigation. That's good.
Yeah, more bullets equals more deflect for bullet time. Hanzo's Storm Arrow count increased from 5 to 6. Actually, it used to be 6. Sonic Arrow. If Sonic Arrow impacts enemy, it deals standard Storm Bow arrow damage. This should allow Hanzo to keep up better in a more chaotic battlefield. You can actually, I don't know if you know this, you can stick enemies with the Sonic Arrow, and then the little radar thing will follow them where they move.
Yeah.
That's actually, I really like that. This just makes it so that it also deals standard arrow damage.
That's a good idea, because like it results in less having to figure out, do I want to like stick them with this but not damage them versus, you know, damaging them but not knowing where the fuck everybody is, that kind of thing.
Yeah. In a 7v7 environment, I think he should be rewarded for whatever shots he manages to land while everyone is routing around him.
Yes, I agree, absolutely.
Yes.
Again,
Hanzo's kind of weak right now, so he could use it.
Yeah, just buff Hanzo a little bit. Yep.
Junkrat. This one's interesting. Total Mayhem passive. Dropped bombs now carry 30% of Junkrat's momentum upon death. This gives Junkrat more...
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
This gives Junkrat more options in approach engagements and makes engaging with him a bit more strategic. So right now, the way it works is that his bombs do not have any momentum. They just drop straight down. They just drop straight down where he dies. This allows them to carry a bit of his momentum, which I think is strategically really interesting.
I like that idea a lot, actually, because what ends up happening a lot of the times is, like, you have a Junkrat coming right at you, firing bombs at you. You just shoot him dead at where he stands, and then the bombs just drop where they are. This actually requires more counterplay against him, because if he's coming right for you and, like, you kill him, I don't know, like a few meters away, those bombs are gonna hit. Those bombs are gonna hit you, and you're gonna take damage. So this requires being more mindful of Junkrat's positioning.
Yeah, you got to be a little bit more mindful, because let's say like you're Orisa and you javelin spear throw the Junkrat, but he's in front of your team, and now you just sent all those bombs in your team's direction.
Exactly, because that the javelin results in knockback. So as he gets knocked back, the momentum of the bombs pushes those bombs backwards into your team. Yeah. So that's really smart, actually. I like that a lot. And again, it gives Junkrat more expression for the player, because one of the things that I love doing in Overwatch as it stands is killing people with the passive, because that's really funny.
Yes, I think Junkrat's passive is the most underrated fucking ability in this game.
It really is. It's so funny when you fucking kill somebody after you die.
Yeah, this is just an extension, because we already have to account for the bombs when you kill them. Every player learns this instinctively after a while, to not walk forward into the Junkrat corpse when you kill him.
Yes.
You know, this is just an extrapolation of that, made for a more 7v7 environment. And also, with more people on the field, you kind of have a little bit more freedom to, let's say, play Junkrat a little more suicidally.
Yeah. You can basically turn him into like a mini berserker.
Yeah. Or like a kamikaze pilot.
Kamikaze pilot's a better way to put it, yeah. No, I love this change, especially because I love playing Junkrat. He's super fun.
Yeah, it's so simple, but I really love this idea.
I know a lot of players. More personality to him.
I know a lot of players would fucking hate this idea, but fuck you. This is my hypothetical scenario. I will change passes all I want.
You may not like it, but consider more bombs.
This is what peak performance looks like. Next up, May. Endothermic Blaster's slow effect increased from 30 to 40%. Ice Wall can now be placed on walls and ceilings!
Fuck, finally.
This gives May more flexible crowd control options and a more chaotic battlefield. So, all those pesky situations where you're like, damn, if you're like on a catwalk or something, and there's a wall next to you, but no floor, now you can be like, oh shit, I can put a wall I can put an ice wall on the wall and block it horizontally.
Yeah.
That shit's just cool, and I think for 7v7 you're gonna want more crowd control options like that.
Yeah.
So she can slow a little bit more, and the ice wall is now way more flexible.
Yeah, and this also helps to result in slightly better spy checking.
Yes.
Yep.
The wall and ceilings thing is especially. I can think of many scenarios where, like, imagine you're on high ground and Afar is you're on high ground like Gibraltar or something.
Yes.
in like the midpoint, and there's Afar or whatever, and you can't usually block her with ice wall on high ground because there's no ground for you to do that on. But if you could do it off like the wings of the ship or something, do it upside down, you could block her rockets that way, and I think that shit is really cool.
Yeah.
Speaking of Pharah, concussive blast maximum knockback increased from 10 to 12 meters, more utility in crowded bladders. Yeah.
Yeah, not really a whole lot need. Not a whole, very similar to Echo. Not much needs to be changed with Pharah.
Yeah.
Her kit kind of works as is.
Just a more knockbacky knockback.
Yeah.
Reaper, no changes pending future rework. I have no idea what they're doing to Reaper, so I'm not gonna fuck with it.
Yeah, and Reaper's pretty weak in the current meta, so it's gonna be interesting to see what they do with him going forward.
Yeah. I didn't feel comfortable making any changes to Reaper because I don't know what they're planning.
Completely fair. I get that.
Sojourn, Disruptor Shot, now slows movement speed again by 20%. This is less than it used to, but more than it does now, which is not at all. The radius has been reduced from 4 to 3 meters, though. Disruptor Shot is more crowd control utility, but must be aimed more efficiently.
Yeah, this is a good mitigation of keeping her kit effective while...
I miss the Disruptor Shot slow. I think it lost a lot of its identity when they took that away.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand to a certain degree why they did it, because Sojourn kind of got a reputation as a DPS that could kind of just do everything. But I miss it, and I think in a 7v7 environment, it would be totally appropriate to bring it back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, make it its effect range smaller, make it have to be aimed more carefully, but have that slow to it.
Yeah.
Soldier, no changes. Soldier. He can keep soldiering.
Yeah. He shoot, he run, he heal, he good.
Yeah. You could add or take away any number of fucking players in this game, and I feel like Soldier's fine.
Yeah, even in the switch from like 6v6 to 5v5, Soldier basically had like next to no changes going into the new format.
Yeah,
he's had next to no changes over the course of the game as it is.
Yeah.
So
the most changes Soldier ever really gets are his bullet damage has fucking leapt around from like 18 to 19 to 20 to 19 to 18 to 20 to 19, like constantly. That's just reacting to meta, where they're literally just like a little bit weaker, a little bit stronger, a little bit weaker, a little bit stronger. They just change it back and forth. There's no right.
Just the tiniest tweaks, just turning a knob.
Yeah, there's no like right number for that. It's just kind of meta dependent, so they just adjust every now and again. Sombra. Hack enemy ability lockout increased from 1.5 to 2.5 seconds, which is actually less than it used to be. Health pack lockout increased from 45 seconds to 60 seconds. Changes will allow Sombra more control over the battlefield given the increased quantity of factors.
I would argue even in the current 5v5, her hack probably should be ever so slightly more effective, like maybe increase it to 2 seconds in the current meta. So I think 2.5 seconds is pretty good for 7v7.
I will remind you, it used to lock you up for like a full 5 seconds.
Which is stupid, but yeah, no, I get that.
I think they over in the change to the Rush 2, I think they kind of yeah. It's mostly useful now for like canceling channel abilities and shit.
Yeah.
The lockout can help you secure eliminations, but you have such a brief window to do it. And again, in 7v7, it's more chaotic. You're gonna need a wider window.
Yeah. No, this is good.
Yep. Symmetra.
Oh boy.
I'm bringing back the shield generator. Woohoo! Fuck you. Shield generator shares the same ability slot as teleporter, but only one can be active at a time. Naturally, I'm not crazy. Shield generator has a 20-second cooldown upon destruction. The teleporter maintains its 12-second cooldown. Shield generator is a deployable object with 100 HP and 100 shields, which grants allies within 15 meters 50 shields. Deployables self-destructs after 20 seconds if not destroyed. Allies must have line of sight to the generator and lose shields upon losing line of sight. This is different than how it used to work, where as long as you were within range, you got the shields. Now you must have line of sight to it.
I think changing it to a line of sight thing is a good change, because otherwise this would just result in way the fuck too much team sustain.
Yes, which is not what we're after.
Yes.
This reinforces Symmetra's role as a builder-type hero and adds depth to her kit.
Yeah, no, this is a good change, because as it stands, it's mostly just her teleporting in, shooting shit and fucking people up, adding turrets everywhere to like annoy people, and then getting the fuck out of dodge.
I miss the shield generator. I miss Junkrat warning me that he's detecting a shield generator.
I'm detecting a shield generator.
I'm detecting a shield generator. I miss that voice line so much.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And this will bring it back.
Yep. Torbjorn. Deploy turret. Turrets can now be affixed to walls and ceilings. Fuck yeah, I love that fucking April Fool's change. Add it to the fucking game. Turret
Why
HP...
was that not a permanent change?
Turret HP reduced from 225 to 150. Now has 2 charges.
Oh.
Turret damage reduced from 13 to 11. Turret model size reduced by 35%. Turrets now share Torbjorn's self-regen global passive to account for turrets being in locations he can't reach with his hammer to repair. Overload overhealth gained reduced from 100 to 75. Reinforces his role as a builder type hero. Adds flexibility to his kit. So he's got 2 turrets that are smaller and weaker, but he can put them on walls and ceilings, and I think that's fucking epic.
And they have some self-regen, so that's good. That's good.
Yes, that's literally just because if you're gonna fix them to walls and ceilings, there are
can't get to them.
many.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't hit them with your hammer. So now they'll just have the same self-gen repassive that everyone does.
That makes a lot of sense. That's good. That's good. Yeah. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Yes, I think it would make him very flexible. And again, with 7v7, you can afford to bring back the builder archetype. Tracer, pulse bomb explosion radius increased from 4 to 5 meters. Yeah. It's more chaotic, or you need it.
Yeah.
You need it. You just need it.
You need more to deal with more. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Venture, no changes. Venture is too new. I don't have a solid grasp on what would be necessarily different in a 7v7 environment. I think they'd be fine.
Yeah, the problem, Venture would probably be fine. Venture's already really good in the meta at current. Like, as far as hero debuts, Venture's had one of the stronger ones.
I'd say smoother. It's very smooth.
Yeah.
There wasn't a whole lot to bitch about. I actually think in a 7v7 environment, Venture's they need to be a little bit more careful because there's more enemies, but I think a lot of their abilities are going to benefit from having more enemies to hit. You're doing technically more damage, particularly popping out of the ground. Your chance of hitting more enemies is much higher.
Oh yeah,
on the point and whatnot.
And tectonic shock, with all the enemies being more like closely clustered together, you're going to be able to get a lot more kills with that all. So
yeah, they're fine. They might actually need nerfs maybe, but I can't. I have not played this hypothetical game mode, so I can't really say that.
Yeah.
Anyway, Widowmaker. Widow's Kiss non-ADS, the burst fire. Maximum damage reduced from 13 to 10. Target receives anti-heal debuff for 2 seconds after taking 50 damage within 6 seconds. The 6-second window from the first shot.
That's interesting.
This gives her non-ADS burst fire a purpose. And I see it as a logic. I tried to do like a poison damage over time thing added to the Widow's Kiss, but I didn't really like how the math worked out there.
Yeah.
So instead, I just gave her like an Ana anti-heal debuff for a short time if you take a lot of damage from that non-ADS burst fire.
That's good because it does give Widow the ability to punish people who come up behind her and try to like kill her as is. Yes. Like that's good.
There's also a lot more people that are going to be trying to do that.
Yeah.
And her non-ADS fire has such a wide spread that anyone in her immediate vicinity, you have to be really close to do this much damage in this window. But if they do, you should be able to take care of them easier because they're going to have anti-heal applied to them after a bit.
Yeah. The only Widow is a fragile hero, and the only reason that still works in the current meta is because because it's 5v5.
Yeah.
There isn't as much opposition, and you can just kind of like position yourself effectively away from everything else. With 2 extra people on the battlefield, another tank, and especially another damage. DPS, you are going to want a lot more expression to. You're going to want a lot more expression to deal with people who are trying to kill you.
And getting into that, Venom Mine now has 2 charges, 12-second cooldown per charge, down from 15. With more combatants on the field, Widowmaker needs more clearance to operate as a sniper. Mm-hmm. Utility added to non-scope's primary fire for additional crowd control.
Yeah, that. Honestly, these are great changes. I think that would work pretty damn beautifully in 7v7.
Yeah. I think she needs more. She needs more clearance to operate, as I put it.
Yeah.
And now for the supports. Ana, biotic rifle movement penalty while scope reduced from 65% to 40%. Sleep dart cooldown reduced from 14 seconds to 12. Give her more opportunities to do her job in a more chaotic battlefield.
Yeah.
Simple stuff.
Yeah.
Baptiste biotic launcher alt fire area of effect increased from 3 to 3.5 meters. Grants us healing more coverage to account for more spread out allies.
That's a good change. That's a good change. Yep. Pretty simple.
Brigida, repair pack maximum range increase from 25 to 30 meters. Yes, I'm undoing that stupid change. Why not? Stay mad about it.
Fuck you.
I don't know why they nerfed it. Fuck it. I'm unnerfing it.
If anything, maybe you should buff it.
Fuck it. Repair pack now has no maximum range. Fuck it. You can send it to the other side of the map. Fuck you.
You just like playing Brigida.
No, I'm kind of half kidding, but also the repair pack max range nerf is, I don't know what the fuck it accomplished, and it just feels a lot worse.
Yeah.
30 meters was perfect.
Yeah.
25, you always run into these situations where you're just not close enough.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, Iliari, solar rifle alt fire healing rate reduced from 115 HP per second to 100 HP per second. That got nerfed. Pylon now has 3 charges similar to Symmetra's turrets. The HP has been reduced from 50 to 10, but the shield remains at 50 for a total of 60. Cooldown set to 8 seconds per charge. Model size reduced by half. Healing reduced from 30 over 0.45 seconds to 15 over 0.2 seconds per individual pylon. The firing rate has increased from 1.25 shots per second to 1.3 shots per second. This gives Iliadi more flexibility to heal a more spread out team and reduces her dependency on any one pylon to provide healing. Yeah. So in a 7v7 environment, you're going to, by the nature of, you know, a team potentially having more flankers or whatever, you're going to be way more spread out.
Yeah.
This gives her the ability to keep up with that, and I think having more charges on deployables is, I've always found it more fun because you can be a lot more strategic about it. And I think it's even better to play against because the pylons are significantly weaker. They're more omnipresent, but they're significantly weaker. So they're easier to deal with, whereas right now you just have that one pylon that a lot of people find frustrating. I think they're just pussies, but you know, you got the one to deal with. That's like in the big spot where it's healing everyone all at once, and now you're gonna have multiple little ones healing like one flanker. You know.
Yeah.
And I think it's more useful for the Iliadi and more flexible, but it's also not annoying to deal with.
Yeah. Nah, good change. I like it.
Yeah.
Honestly, you could. Honestly, there are a fair amount of these changes that you could just transplant over to 5v5 as it stands.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. These patch notes definitely have a lot of things that I just want on a personal level. A lot of them also just happen to make sense for 7v7.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kiriko, kunai damage increased from 45 to 50, ammo reduced from 15 to 12. This change allows Kiriko to 2-tap headshot 250 HP targets again, but her decreased ammo means she'll have to be more calculated with her shots. In a 7v7 environment, this gives her more kill pressure in engagements.
Yeah.
They took away the 2-tap. I'm bringing it back.
Bring back that 2-tap, baby. Tink, tink, dead.
That's how it should be. It's the way of the universe.
Yes.
Yeah, this is a very simple change, but I know all my fellow Kiriko enjoyers would enjoy it. Also for 7v7, I think it just makes sense.
Yes.
Like, I didn't just do it because I wanted to buff Kiriko. You could... No, it is a buff. I'm not going to fucking...
It is. Yeah, it is.
Anyway, Life Weaver pedal platform. Platform will still rise automatically when stepped on. However, pressing the interact key will make it descend. Pressing it again will make it rise.
Okay.
This has a 2.5 second cooldown to prevent spam. So you can't just have a Widow stand on the platform going up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. No, there's a... I thought of that. A lot of people want the ability to fucking make the platform descend and rise again. So there you go.
Honestly, I feel like that's a pretty fun change.
That could just be in the game now, honestly. Life Grip cooldown reduced from 19 to 17 seconds. With more allies than ever to save with Life Grip, it's important that he be given more chances to do so.
Yeah, and again, the pedal platform is just giving him more expression. That's good.
Yep. Technically, it's giving expression to whoever stands on it.
I mean,
yeah.
you know what I mean, yeah. Like, again, he is a support, so...
I think the reason they don't have it work that way is because they're concerned about teammates fighting over the platform, being like, no, I want it up, no, I want it down, no, I want it up. I don't think it lasts long enough, and I don't think... When do you see 2 people using it at the same time? That's my thing.
Yeah.
Like, you could potentially run into that issue, I guess, but, like... That's a pretty fucking edge case.
Yeah. Just
make it interact with the interact key. Lucio Amp It Up cooldown now starts at activation rather than when the effect ends. So I'm not nerfing the cooldown. I'm not buffing the cooldown, but I can am. This will let Lucio keep up with the frantic action of a 7v7 environment. So Amp It Up's cooldown currently starts when the effect ends. Now it starts when you activate it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's it.
That's fair enough. It just keeps him. It just keeps Amp It Up in a more consistently usable state. That's good.
Yep. Mercy. Oh shit! I can't change Mercy. The Mercy Mafia will be after me. Ah! I'm not comfortable. I've been instructed to tell you that I'm not comfortable.
You are not under liberty to make changes to Mercy at this point in time.
No, I don't have a PhD in Mercyology. I am unqualified to speak on Mercy's balance changes. Please don't. Can I see my family again?
Understandable. Have a nice day.
Anyway, Moira. Biotic Orb cooldown increased from 8 seconds to 10 seconds. Don't panic! Healing Orb now grants allies plus 20% damage resistance for up to for 5 seconds upon sustained contact. Damage Orb now weakens enemies, reducing damage dealt by 20% for 5 seconds upon sustained contact. Sustained contact here means 1.25 seconds. This gives Moira more utility in the field while not disrupting the flow of her kit. Note that these effects can never stack due to her only being able to spawn a single orb at a time.
This is good. I like it.
Yes.
I like it because the biggest issue with Moira, and I say that as somebody who plays Moira the most, is that she's either pure healing or pure damage.
She has no utility.
No actual utility. This actually gives her a little bit more, a little bit of utility that makes her little bit more strategic to play.
Yeah, but I'm not making the same mistake as they did. They did in the beta when they had a necrotic orb, which completely ruined the flow of her kit.
Yeah.
This gives the necrotic weakened version of the necrotic orb effect to damage orb, and the sustained contact threshold is just so you don't get this debuff just by getting grazed by the fucking thing. You have to have 1.25 seconds of contact with the orb.
Yeah.
And I think this would give her a little bit more utility, and be fun.
Yeah, no, I would honestly love playing this version of Moira. This is really fun. This is a great idea.
Yep. And finally, Zenyatta, Orb of Harmony, healing reduced from 30 HP per second to 20, but it now grants an area of effect healing to allies within 5 meters of the orb target, and that healing is set to 10 HP per second, because nothing says harmony like encouraging teammates to stick together.
No, yeah, that just works better for Zen's kit, and also it just works better for what Orb of Harmony is supposed to accomplish.
I think single target healing, unless you have Mercy levels of mobility, is kind of not appropriate for 7v7. So this gives him more group healing without just giving him a second orb or whatever.
Yes. Yeah, no, this is a good change for that. It accounts for more people on the battlefield, and it just increases the utilization of his particular healing ability. This is good.
Yep. And that is all the changes I could think of for what if Overwatch was 7v7. Obviously, there are a lot of things I can't cover, like map changes and shit like that, and mode alterations, and obviously, I thought about adding a section for Clash, but I'm like, well, I don't know how they're going to change Clash when they actually release it, so I don't know what I'm changing it to or from. Maybe at some point in the future, I'll make a follow-up video with other heroes or the reworks I said they were doing, or just if I have new balance ideas. This is definitely like a thought experiment I want to kind of keep up in the Siegfried consciousness, so I may do a follow-up video at some point, but as of right now, as far as changes I would make to the game coming from the end of season 10 to a hypothetical 7v7 environment, these are the changes I would make by and large. What do you think, Kevin?
I think for the most part these are good changes if you're going to be switching to 7v7. Like I said earlier, the biggest change is the tanks, and that's a good thing in terms of tank meta right now, because tanks are probably in the worst state that they've ever been.
Well, it's interesting because balance-wise, I'd say they're actually in the best state they've ever been.
Right, yeah, but they're just not fun to play.
Yeah.
You are babysitting your team more than ever in the current tank meta, and a switch to 7v7 takes the pressure off of a singular tank to sustain a team and to be the centerpiece, and it allows for a lot more individual expression, not just for the individual tanks that are playing both of them, but also the rest of the team as a whole to work as a unit.
Yeah.
As well as individually.
Yes. I really like the concept of 7v7, I think it balances the extremes a bit, because if you play casually, it takes off a lot of that pressure to not only perform optimally, but also make optimal strategic decisions and have tight teamwork and synergy and stuff. It takes away a lot of that pressure casually, while also providing more strategic options for coordinated play.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, there are a lot of there's a lot of like critiquing you could do about this format in like super high level comp. Like a lot of people like to point out that like in tournament settings, for example, 5v5 means that's 4 less plane tickets you have to buy.
Yeah.
you know, shit like that. I did not. I'm not factoring in esports into this. I'm just factoring in what I think would make the game fun. And I think, well, I'm open to all suggestions, obviously, including just further adjustments to 5v5. Is it thunderstorming out? What the fuck?
The
Anyway,
hell?
yeah, it's like 90 degrees and it's thunderstorming. Interesting. But I've had 7v7 on the brain basically ever since they announced 5v5. I'm like, why don't you go the other way? So I'm galaxy brained enough to postulate about that hypothetical scenario, and I wanted to share that with the world. So this is what if 7v7 is the way? What do you think, audience? Would this be fun? What changes would you make? Am I a fucking crazy person? Please tell me. That's the end of the video. Thanks. Bye. Zeke Freak out. Ciao, ciao for now.